Snow fell heavily over Wyoming on Christmas Eve of 1887, wrapping the land in a cold, breathless silence. Inside a lonely wooden cabin, Eli Mercer stood by a frost-covered window, watching the road disappear under a blanket of white. Behind him, his 6-year-old daughter, Hannah, arranged pine cones on the rough wooden table while softly humming the Christmas song her mother used to sing. It had been 2 years since the fever took Sarah from them, and in all that time, Eli had not found a way to fill the void she left behind. Every drop of love he had left belonged only to his daughter. The rest of the world could stay far from his door. "Papa, do you think she'll come today?" Hannah asked, her voice full of the kind of innocence that Eli no longer believed existed. His jaw tightened. The mail-order bride, a decision he had made not out of longing, but out of duty. Hannah needed a woman's presence. He needed help keeping the homestead alive. Love was no longer part of his life. "If she's coming," he said flatly, "she'll be here by noon." Hannah bounced on her toes with a hopeful smile. "I hope she's nice, and that she likes Christmas." Eli didn't answer. He only hoped she would be strong, practical, and wouldn't expect more than he was capable of giving. Then a hard knock on the door cut through the air like a blade. Hannah gasped. "Papa, it's her!" Eli crossed the cabin with heavy steps, took the latch, and pulled the door open. A woman stood outside in the falling snow. Her dress was worn, patched in several places. Her shoes were torn and wrapped in cloth. She held a single small carpet bag, everything she owned. Her face showed the exhaustion of the journey, but her eyes held a quiet dignity, as if she carried no shame over her condition. "Mr. Mercer," she said softly, mixing doubt and hope in her voice. "I'm Margaret." Before Eli could speak, Hannah rushed forward. "Papa, she's freezing. Let her in." Eli looked at her, truly looked. Poverty clung to her like a shadow, and fear pricked his chest. What kind of life had forced her into this? And was this truly the woman he should bring into his daughter's life? But the winter wind cut through the doorway like a warning, and Hannah was already holding Margaret's hand. Eli stepped aside at last. Margaret crossed the threshold, and the snow on her shoulders melted like silent tears. Hannah guided her straight to the fire. "It's warmest here," the little girl said proudly. "Papa built this fireplace." Margaret wrapped both hands around the cup Hannah handed her, seeking warmth. Her voice when she spoke was gentler than Eli expected. "Thank you, sweetheart." That night, the sound of Hannah's laughter returned to the cabin as she and Margaret hung the Christmas stocking. A sound Eli had not heard since Sarah died. Margaret quietly mended the torn stocking without being asked, the kind of woman who understood both broken houses and broken hearts. Eli escaped to the barn, unable to face the emotions that began to surface. For the first time in 2 years, loneliness loosened its grip on him. The next morning, Hannah's excited scream woke him. "Papa, look what was inside my stocking." She held a small wooden bird carving, simple, delicate, beautiful. "Did you make this, Miss Margaret?" she asked eagerly. "Yes," Margaret replied with a shy smile. "It's a chickadee, a brave little bird. It doesn't run from winter." Eli swallowed hard. She had nothing, and yet she gave something precious to his daughter. As days passed, Margaret woke early, made coffee, organized the pantry, taught Hannah to read, and brought life back into the cabin without asking anything in return. Eli remained distant, yet he saw everything. The return of Hannah's laughter, the disappearance of her nightmares, the way the cabin no longer felt hollow. One night he picked up his tools and, for the first time in 2 years, carved something, a wooden flower. He didn't know why. Deep down, perhaps he did. But then came the poison from town. At the general store, a circle of widows and gossipers attacked with sharp tongues. She arrived in rags, shameful. A woman with nothing isn't fit to be a wife. Poor Eli. His late Sarah came from a good family. And now this? Their words pierced him. Pride, fear, and doubt twisted inside him. And when he returned home, something in him froze once more. He avoided Margaret. Hannah's joy faded. Margaret stopped singing. The cabin felt empty again, until one night, approaching Hannah's room, he heard a trembling whisper that shattered him. "Miss Margaret, are you going to leave like Mama did?" Margaret's voice broke but stayed steady. "I'm here, little one. I'm right here. Eli stepped back, heart crumbling. Later in the barn, he opened Sarah's Bible. Written in her handwriting in the margin of a page were words he needed more than ever. What a person is worth has nothing to do with what they wear, but everything to do with what they carry inside. He closed his eyes, and he understood. The next morning, Margaret entered the kitchen and found him making breakfast. She froze. He handed her a cup with trembling hands. "I owe you an apology," he said. "When you arrived, I saw only your rags, and when others spoke, I believed them instead of trusting what I saw here." Margaret held her breath. "My daughter saw your worth on the first day," Eli said. "I was the one who needed time. But I'm done ignoring it." He placed the wooden flower between them. Then he opened a small box. Inside lay an old ring. "This belonged to my wife's family. Sarah wrote that it should go to the next woman worthy of my heart." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Eli took her hand gently. "I choose you, Margaret, not in spite of what you've lost, but because you never lost your honor. Will you stay as family?" She broke into quiet tears. "Yes, Eli, I'll stay." Just then, Hannah ran in and threw herself into Margaret's arms. "You're staying forever?" Margaret hugged her tightly. "Forever, little bird." Later that week, in the town church, all eyes turned when Eli walked in with Margaret on his arm. He lifted his voice clearly. "This is my future wife. She came with nothing but her character, and that's worth more than any fortune. If this town measures worth by clothing, then this town has much to learn." Silence fell. Then one by one, neighbors stepped forward, offering welcome and respect. On the way home, they noticed small purple and gold crocus flowers pushing through the snow near the cabin. Sarah's flowers, alive again after the long winter. "They were always there," Margaret said softly, kneeling with Hannah. "They just needed a little warmth." Eli understood. That same warmth had returned to his home and to his heart. Hand in hand, the three stepped into the cabin, where the fire glowed warmly, and for the first time in 2 years, the house felt alive again. Sometimes the harshest winter melts when someone brave enough opens the door of their heart. Eli opened his, and Margaret stepped in with all her dignity.